Hi, David Orlofsky, and welcome to our Parsha in 5, where in 5 minutes we give you an insight in the Parsha that is suitable for saying over at the Shabbos table or for helping you scintillate at a cocktail party. I don't think I've ever actually been to a cocktail party, but I imagine that people need to scintillate there. So what better way of scintillating than saying, yeah, I was listening to Rabbi Orlofsky's Parsha in 5, and I heard the following idea. So feel free, and as always, we have sponsors. You can see the sponsors in the notes over there. Tell you about who is making this possible, and we encourage people to help us be Marbitz Torah and Klal Yisrael, because if you're here, then you know that there is nothing like the Rabbi Orlofsky show, and especially our Parsha in 5. Thank you very much. I got you understand that if Chas v'Shalom I lose a finger, I'm going to have to make this the Parsha in 4. But right now, Baruch Hashem is the Parsha in 5. Parshas Vaera. Yeah. Very interesting that the Pasuk can be read in a couple of ways, where Hashem says to Moshe, tell Aaron, Kach es matcha, take your stick and hit the river, and it will turn into blood, and all the water in Egypt will turn into blood. So you understand there's 2 ways to read that. Tell Aaron, Kach et matcha, take your stick, Moshe. Or tell Aaron, Kach et matcha, take your stick, Aaron. Tell Aaron to take his stick, Kach es matcha, and hit the river. Which one does it mean? So it's very interesting because, in Pirkei Avos, it says there were 10 things that were created on the 6th day, Ben Hashmashos, and one of them was the Mata of Moshe, which had all of the Makos written on it, etc. But the Brisa in Psachim says Mata shel Aaron. So, oh my gosh, you mean that Moshe had a staff and Aaron had a staff? It turns out that they were the joint chiefs of staff. I tell you, that's it. We could just stop now for that joke. But each one of them had a mata. And now listen what the Kli Yakar says, because it's absolutely amazing. He says Aaron's mata was stronger than Moshe's. Even though Moshe's mata had grown in Gan Eden, and Adam took it out, and it had been passed down through the generations, and Noach took it on the Teva, and eventually it grew in Yisro's garden, and no one could remove it, much like Excalibur's story. And Moshe pulled it out, and it was this unbelievable, miraculous thing. Aaron's was more powerful. And he says the Raya L'Dava is that when Moshe uses his mata, only the river turns to blood. But when Aaron uses his mata, all of the water in Egypt turns to blood. The canals, the lakes, the reservoirs inside of the little jars. Remember that scene when, the slave girl drops the pitcher and it's filled with blood? If you know what I'm talking about. That. Those of you who didn't read the book and saw the movie instead. But anyway, so that his was more powerful. Why? Because Moshe had a mata that was meant to lead Bnei Yisrael. Ha'osos zu hamata, we say in the Haggadah. That's the osos, because the os is for Bnei Yisrael. Mofsim, that's punishments for Paro, and that Aaron's mata could do, because you use a real big stick to beat a bad dog, says the Medrash, and Paro was like a dog. But for Bnei Yisrael, it's the stick of the shepherd to lead them. You may have heard the expression by hook or by crook. The crook, like you have a crook of your arm, so that little round thing at the top, that's the crook. And there was a hook at the other end to pull it back from the wool. So I'm going to keep the sheep on the path by hook or by crook. So too, Moshe was there to lead us and not to be too tough with us, But Aaron's matzah was very powerful. And that's why it says the Kli Yakar, when Moshe throws down his stick, it turns into a nachash, a snake. When Aaron throws it down, it turns into a tanin, which is a crocodile, much scarier, more powerful. And that was what he did for Paro. So we have to always remember that although we say, and Mishlei, spare the rod and spoil the child, it should be the rod of the shepherd who's there to make sure we bring people back, and not the stick that one uses to beat away a bad dog. All of us have to know that we carry a stick. Speak softly and carry a big stick, as Teddy Roosevelt famously said. But our stick should be the stick of the shepherd that we use to shepherd our people back to where they belong. Shabbos.